I want people to remember me as like the fighter that tried to make a difference, you know, and try to have a positive impact. I've always just been so competitive, and knowing that MMA is the toughest sport physically and mentally, even though there was not much opportunity back, 10 years ago, I still was like, I want to be the champ. I want to turn pro someday, and I want to try to be the champ. I think I can do this. So for me, it's always just about proving to myself what I'm capable of. Once I'm backstage, I think the main thing I think about is why I fight. For me, besides fighting for my girlfriend and my family, a big reason why I fight is I always say when I enter the cage, I'm in there to honor all my brothers and sisters in blue and all those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, like my friend Blake. So I'm in there to honor all of them, and that's kind of my biggest motivation, is to get in there and have that blue line flag to represent all of them. Representing the thin blue line, it means everything to me. I think there's a lot of controversy, in the world with police officers, and a lot of people don't see the good that we do every day. So I like to give exposure to all these officers that I know every day risk their lives for perfect strangers. So I try to do my best to honor all of them. I grew up pretty much playing all sports, but my main sports were soccer and taekwondo. I started both of those when I was about like 4 or 5, and I continued with those through like middle school and high school. In high school, I wanted to start kickboxing and join my high school wrestling team, but my parents were like, absolutely not. They didn't want me to get injured, so I kind of stuck with soccer and taekwondo. I got a college scholarship for soccer, and I always knew like I wanted to fight. Like that's something I always wanted to do since I was a little, but I had to stick with my parents' rules, and they didn't want me to, so taekwondo was the closest I could get to it. Finally my freshman year of college, I was like, well, I guess I don't have to listen to them anymore. I can kind of do what I want. So I started training at a local MMA gym close to the university that I was at the time. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been missing. Like, this is what I've been looking for. So I dropped my soccer scholarship, quit playing soccer. That was paying for me to go to school, but I knew it just wasn't for me anymore. So I stopped playing soccer, I stopped doing taekwondo, and I was a full-time student that trained every day, trained mixed martial arts. This is the toughest sport out there physically and mentally, and I want to prove I can do that. So it was just all about, me proving to myself like I can do this. So that's why I got into MMA, because in my opinion, I think MMA is the toughest sport there is out there. So I just kept setting goals for myself. I was training, and I was like, I want to have one fight. So then I had my first amateur fight, 2 years into my training. I won that, and then I made it a goal of, well, I want to be a champion as an amateur. So then I accomplished that goal, and then my goal was, I want to be a pro fighter. So I just keep setting goals for myself, and I always strive to reach my goals and never give up on my dreams. I am a full-time police officer. I was a police officer for 8 years in St. Louis, Missouri. I moved out here this past August, and I'm now a police officer in San Diego. You know, law enforcement is also my second passion. Ever since I was little, I always wanted to be a police officer. I'm very fortunate that I do get to do both my passions. Not a lot of people can say that they get to. You know, I have a huge passion for mixed martial arts fighting, and I have a huge passion for law enforcement, and the fact that I'm able to do both, and I balance both, and they both complement each other and help me in different ways. So I'm very fortunate to have that. You know, being a police officer, it's definitely a hard job. It's stressful, but it's also very fulfilling to go out there and try to help the community and help people. But unfortunately, with the job comes some tough things. You know, we see a lot of tough things, unfortunately, whether it's like a child abuse case or, you know, someone that just got in a really bad car accident and they're severely injured or possibly dead. You know, there's things I've seen throughout the years that will definitely haunt me in my dreams. And, you know, people just need an outlet, whether it's like running or reading or, you know, everyone has different outlets. And for me, it's MMA. You know, when I've had a tough day at work where I saw some stuff that were pretty hard and, you know, had to deal with some tough situations, you know, it's always good to just get in the gym and I kind of just get that stress out and, you know, I feel better after. Definitely, my favorite thing about being a police officer is just helping people, just seeing how like you can make a difference for one person, you know, whether it's, you know, going out and trying to give a homeless person, you know, some clothes, some food, just talking to kids in the community. It's very important as a police officer. It's not just about arresting the bad guy. You have to have that community involvement. Especially with children, you know, you can make such a big impact with children. So I always try to, in uniform, like I'll get out of my car and just talk to kids like, hey, what's up? You know, my name's Ashley, ask them what sports they play or play any instruments and just introduce myself. And, you know, we don't want children to be afraid to call the police. We don't want them to be afraid of the police. We want them to come to the police if they need anything. So I try my hardest to be there for the community and especially the kids, you know. And I think because of my MMA career, that almost helps me be active with the children in the community because they're like, oh, that girl fights, oh, and she's a police officer, oh, she's cool. And then like they'll get comfortable talking to me and it's just good to build that relationship. You know, I think it was probably after my first amateur fight, I was like, man, like, this is cool. I think I can do this, you know. Back then, there wasn't any opportunity for women. Really, the only thing available for women was hook and shoot. You know, I looked up to all those girls like Tara LaRosa, Shayna Baszler, and Caitlin Young. You know, I still look up to them. And, you know, I was like, man, like, those girls are awesome. I want to be like them. You know, and then over the years, I kept fighting and fighting. And, you know, eventually more avenues opened up, like Strikeforce started having women, and then, you know, UFC started with Ronda Rousey, you know, and then Invicta started, and I was very fortunate. I was on the very first Invicta card, and that was just such an amazing experience to see all these women, and we all have this passion for the same sport, and finally there's a promotion that's about us and, you know, giving us an opportunity. So, I mean, it was such an honor, and like all the girls on that card, like I knew who they were and I looked up to them so much, and I was like, I can't believe I'm on this card with all these amazing fighters. And, you know, I remember after that fight, I started crying a little bit in the cage. You know, I won my first fight for Invicta, and I started crying because I was like, because I knew like this was just so cool to be on such an amazing card with all these amazing athletes. It was a great moment. You know, I have had a tough career in MMA. You know, I've had a lot of ups and downs, I think more than most fighters. My very first loss against Joanne Calderwood, I never really talked about it much after it happened, but I broke So she landed a jab, like the very first jab she landed, and it broke 3 orbital bones. And I lost my vision in the fight. So I eventually got TKO'd, and I had to get surgery a week later to restore my vision. So that was kind of a scary situation. So I almost quit after that because that was scary to be like, I couldn't see for a week, and the doctor was telling me, we don't know if your vision's gonna come back. So, you know, eventually, after a couple weeks of resting, my vision came back. It was scary to think, you know, I could possibly lose my job as a police officer. You know, this is gonna change my life forever if I can't see. So after, you know, a couple months after that, I definitely had to battle with myself, like, you know, should I continue with this? Like, is that gonna happen again? And then after that fight, I went on a 4-fight losing streak. So I lost 4 fights in a row. I think I did quit for the first time in my career. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It just wasn't worth it to me. And I had a lot of other stuff going on in my life, like outside of that, like it's a lot of negative stuff. So I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I definitely kind of slipped into like a little bit of a depression after that fight. I had other stuff going on too, but I was going through a tough time. And because of my depression, I was not eating, and my weight dropped, and I was really low in my weight. So I hadn't trained or talked to my coaches in a while, and one day my coach called me and he was like, you know, we believe in you and we think you have a lot of potential and we think you should still stick with this sport. And I kind of talked to him for a while, and I told him what my weight was, and he was like, well, you know, your weight isn't low for a healthy reason, but, you know, why don't we try 105? So I was like, okay, let's do this. So I had that Bellator fight at the lower weight, and I won. And then I kind of like, I guess kind of remotivated myself. I was like, oh, I can actually fight at 105 and do well. So then I was like, okay, now I gotta stay at this weight in a healthy way. So I started working with a nutritionist to keep my weight down. So I was able to keep my weight down in the low 120s, you know, high teens. And the past couple of years, I've been able to keep my weight low in a healthy way, you know, working with my nutritionist. And, you know, I've been doing a lot better since I've dropped to 105. This is hard for me to talk about still, because my friend Blake was shot and killed in the line of duty. And after he was killed, I told myself I have to honor him in some way. So I didn't know what I was gonna do. And then Invicta called me like 4 weeks out from that fight card. They're like, do you wanna fight Amber Brown? And I said, sure. And I knew, I was like, this is how I'm gonna honor him, is through this fight. So that whole training camp, I kept telling myself, like, I have to win this fight because I have to get that microphone and I have to tell everyone that Blake's a hero. So that was my motivation that whole camp, was just to get that microphone. You know, I got the win and I was able to tell everyone how Blake's a hero. That was definitely, that was really hard losing him. It was hard on my police department. Very fortunate that I was able to get the opportunity to let everyone know who he is and how he's a hero.
Last October, I fought tonight in his honor and his name. A hero remembered never dies. He's a hero.
And so I beat Amber Brown, and then immediately after that fight, I was offered to fight Jen. It was a good fight. All the props to her. You know, she was a good fighter. She's the champ, and I lost that fight. And after that fight, I was like, man, you know, should I continue with MMA? 'Cause I was like, I'm 30, about to be 31. Like, I kind of took some steps back, fighting towards the title. And My girlfriend was my biggest motivation to continue. She's my #1 fan, and she motivates me every day. She's so passionate about my MMA career, and it makes her so happy just to see the smile on her face every time I compete. And that's what motivates me and drives me now, is to see her smile. So I moved to San Diego early August, and I tried out a couple of gyms in the area. And I liked all the gyms I tried, but day one, entering San Diego Combat Academy, I fell in love with the place. I was like, this is where I need to be. All the girls and the coaches are super nice and welcoming, and they're all badasses there. And it's good for me to be pushed by all these high-level athletes. I've learned so much since being at this gym, and I'm excited to continue to learn. And it's definitely a new motivation now, being under this gym, and I'm excited to be able to represent them, and I'm very fortunate to have them on my side, helping me every step of the way. I think I'm most proud of how I am able to balance both of my passions of being a police officer and being a pro MMA fighter, and how I try to use both to help the community in some way. My goal is to be the champ. That's always been the goal since day one. I'm just gonna keep racking up wins until I finally get that title shot.